how much I'm looking forward to Sunday's game against Kirk Cousins. You like that? And the Atlanta Falcons. If I had a genie's bottle in front of me right now and I rubbed it and the genie popped up, you know this old. It's a fairy tale. It's an Aesop fable. Genie pops up. She's always attractive, and she says, "Master, I will grant you 3 wishes." Well, my first wish would be that I would get 3 more wishes. You like that? I said, I got 5. And then my second wish would be that it's 12 noon on Sunday. I would even bypass the pregame show, which is the best pregame show in the country, hosted by Moss, the cavalcade of characters that are, you're the master control supervisor. I wished it were 12 noon right now because this is a big one. And the Vikings need to keep pushing on out. They you like that? You like that? I must admit that I'm more confident about this game than I was than the games against the Bears, the Jaguars. Who else did we pound up? Titans. Colts. Because I just why
are you more confident about this one?
Because I think Cousins is done.
Really?
I don't even think not only is he not the best quarterback in the league, he's not even the best quarterback on his roster. That would be who's the
Michael Penix Jr.
That would be Michael Penix Jr. That's why they drafted Michael Penix Jr. It was a smart move on their part. Michael Penix Jr. will be the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons next year. If they wouldn't have drafted Penix, they'd be going, now what are we going to do? There's nobody in the draft. From what I've been told, the people I trust tell me there's nobody out there that's worth drafting. There might be one quarterback, but it's not that. You know, last year's quarterback class was considered, whoa, it's like a full house, royal flush, to use gambling terms or use poker terms. And they ended up, so they have.
And that's why 6 went in the top 12, not only because of the quality of the quarterbacks, but because they were anticipating this year's class to not be as strong. That
is correct. I don't know if Cousins is, put it this way, Tenneby, I've not watched Kirk play this year. I read the accounts. I'm sure I've seen a highlight or two. I think you've suggested, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that maybe he isn't. What was his injury again? He had the Achilles. He had the Achilles thing.
And he had it on his plant foot.
Okay.
So like Rodgers had it on his left foot. All right. He had it on his right foot. I shouldn't say foot, right leg.
And there are those, and I think maybe you said, and if you didn't, you can correct me, that he doesn't seem to be 100%, that he's not completely recovered from that. He just doesn't seem to be quite the same quarterback. And he was always statuesque to begin with. You know, he's got a nice arm, smart kid. You know, he can read a defense. He knows he could put. If you're playing in the National Football League as a quarterback, you got some skills. But with the way the Vikings and the B flow, I mean, Tenneby, Christmas is right around the corner. Are you familiar with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
Yes.
Are you familiar that Rudolph is one of 8 reindeer on Santa's sleigh?
Yes.
What do you think B-Flow's favorite reindeer is?
Well, I mean, I guess I would just assume Rudolph. He's the leader.
Nope.
What's that?
Want to take another guess? Say Vixen.
Vixen?
No, not Vixen. Say Donner.
Donner.
No, not Donner. Donner.
I don't know all my reindeer.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to go down the list. I was trying to get to the other 6. Blitzen. Get it? Blitzen. I think they're going to run roughshod over Atlanta. I think they'll. Maybe Atlanta will change their protections, or maybe Kirk will get the ball out quickly. Maybe they'll try to run the ball more. Bijan Robinson, yeah. And he healthy? Is he playing well? Has he got talent?
Yeah, he's very talented.
Okay. So maybe they'll try it. Maybe they'll say, you know what, this Vikings pass rush, they do pressure the quarterback quite a bit. We can't have Kirk step back, especially coming off a 4 interception game. Oh, you know what? We call them tutties. When Dan Campbell was handing out game balls in the locker room, you know what he said? He said, the Patrick guy that played for Denver, right?
Tim Patrick, yeah.
Yeah. What's his name again?
Tim Patrick.
Tim Patrick goes, Tim Patrick, 2 tugs today. They call them tugs.
Tugs?
I did not. I'd heard of, touchdowns. And then, tutties has been kind of in vogue a little bit. But then I heard they call them tugs. I don't know which. I kind of like tugs, though I still think tutties is my description of choice. But they call them tugs. So I think. And look, it can be the danger. Here's the danger, Tennessee. Anytime you are trying to handicap any sporting event, for that matter, strange things can happen. How many people thought Michigan was going to beat The Ohio State University at Big House last Saturday? Not many, except the guys at Michigan. I mean, there's always that opportunity. So, upsets happen often. And the Vikings are
6-point favorites.
6-point favorites.
Yeah.
6-point favorite. And I think they'll achieve a 6-point victory and then some is what I think they will do. That would be my, and I know that's probably oversimplified. You could say that's oversimplified, but I think football, sometimes people make it too complicated and trying to break it all down. Looking at specific matchups, which can be important. I'm not suggesting that your left tackle against your edge rusher isn't important in a game, but I think sometimes those things become a bit, to me, it's just, I don't think Cousins is mobile enough to stay away from this Vikings pass rush, and I think, and I do think the offense is starting to play pretty well. I would expect, and again, every situation is different. But when the Vikings picked up they were awful offensively in the first half, and for most of the third quarter, and then KOC decided once we got down 19-6, he decided to pick up the pace a little bit, and the offense had
tempo.
Yeah, tempo. They had 3 consecutive scoring drives, 2 tugs, and a figgy. So I would expect them maybe to do that. I would come out with that right away. I wouldn't waste any time. I'd get some tempo going and run Atlanta right out of the stadium. Don't give them a chance to think they're in the ball game. We got the Vikings to talk about. Last night, it was, I got to admit, Tennessee, as and this isn't just a diet, and I don't have my button bar up. I can't find it. It was delicious, is what I'm trying to say last night. Other topics to get to as well. We'll take a short break. We'll come back with more. Oh, by the way, no Lil B today, right?
No, next 2 weeks she's out.
Yeah, but we do have a program password at 1:30. And you said Meat Sauce and who else?
Meat Sauce will be your teammate,
okay.
And then you'll be going up against Max Fuller and Amy Hockert from Fox 9.
Ooh, should be fun. We're looking forward to that. So we'll take a break, come back with more here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Get ready, Minnesota. The Goo Goo Dolls are bringing their electrifying energy to the Ledge Amphitheater on August 18th. Don't miss your chance to experience the magic live. Get the full show details now at KFAN.com keyword calendar. That's KFAN.com keyword calendar.
Pass here on the Common Man program. I'm the Common Man, Dan Cole. He is Tennessee. We are broadcasting live from the cozy confines and the climate-controlled surroundings of the 651 Carpet Plus Studios, home of the next day install. I've mentioned this before. I'm going to say it again. They carpeted my entire main level about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I am absolutely, positively a 100% satisfied customer. I think you will be too. 651carpetsplus.com is the place to go. Tennessee, were you, I'm assuming you were surprised and proud of me last night on social? Did some video.
Man, you're all over the place.
Did some video for the first time ever. One response was, Common finally figured out how to do video on Twitter.
Which is accurate.
Well, no, I mean, I knew how to do it.
It's not really tough.
No, it's not tough. I just never felt that was, while watching the game, I just never thought of doing it, I guess, to be honest. I thought just snarky, snappy retorts in regards to the game was kind of my calling card. I was on Insta last night, too, wasn't I? Was I on Insta?
I didn't check you on the Insta.
I think I was on Insta.
You don't know?
Well, because I didn't do it. What I did is I would post on Twitter, and then Nick, our promotions guy, he would take that and he would post it because my phone, I got to get it set up.
You were not on Insta last night.
Well, what was I? Was it just Twitter then? I thought it was Insta.
Yeah, I saw you on Twitter.
On the KFAN Twitter account?
No, on your own. Well, I mean, the KFAN would retweet yours.
Oh.
From your account.
Well, he was reposting somewhere.
Yeah, he was probably reposting from the KFAN account.
Oh, right. So when I do my regular Twitter, it doesn't appear unless somebody does that, it doesn't.
Let me check if you're on the KFAN Instagram.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. The Common Man one was what I was talking about.
No, I don't even, that's dark. I don't know how to do Instagram. I'm a boomer, Teneby.
Yeah, you're on the KFAN account.
That's what I was, that's what I was saying. So I was on the account last night getting a lot of people seem to enjoy it from what I'm able to understand. And what I did see as well, I think it is true, Teneby. The younger generation likes to engage more with short little videos than they do just reading somebody's tweet. Would you agree with that? Because the views I had were 2 or 3 times more than I normally get when I just do a comment on the game with a text. So I think people like it. I think the kids.
So now if we're going to promote Program Password today with you and Meat Sauce versus Max and Amy Hockert. Instead of typing it out, should I take a video of me talking about it?
I think
would that be better? That's what the kids want?
I think that is exactly what the kids want. That's what I'm being told. You could always tell the Viking fans that are following you because there were those fans. Remember we did a poll yesterday? By the way, this is Peek at the Purple, brought to you by Affordable Electric. Same day or 24-hour service. They will not begin any work at all until they've given you an estimate. So if you were looking for all of your electrical needs, go with affordable-electric.com. Affordable Electric. Shockingly affordable. I guess my Peek at the Purple really isn't about the purple. It's sort of about Viking fans. Yesterday, we did the poll. Would you rather see Detroit beat Green Bay, even though technically it would have been better for the Vikings if your goal is to win the NFC North, and I think it is, for Green Bay to beat Detroit, because then Detroit would have 2 losses just like the Vikings. And if the Vikings and Lions continued to play as they, kept winning, if they meet and they're tied in the final game of the season, the Vikings could win the division or the Lions could fall again somewhere along the line as long as the Vikings keep winning. There were a couple of Viking fans that were absolutely adamant that no way do you root for the Detroit Lions. You have to set aside your hatred for the Green Bay Packers and root for the Packers because it is more beneficial. I love the one response, but I would say 3 out of every 4, maybe 4 out of every 5 texts that I got on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line all said, I know it would help the Vikings, but I can't root for the Packers. The best one was the guy said, I would root for North Korea over the Packers, which I thought was brilliant. Which I thought was a brilliant response.
I always loved it.
But there were other people that were just extremely bitter about it. There was one here. He says, why don't you work at a Lion station? #dumbbutt. He's so mad. He's just so he saw my last, or maybe he's a Packer fan. I don't know. Oh, no, he's a Vikings fan. You can tell. And so it's like, don't take it so serious.
Usually the ones on social media that have like a Vikings-related handle.
Yes.
Or are wearing a Vikings jersey in their avatar.
Exactly.
They are.
Is that what that's called as an avatar? Yeah, because his was. I had to check. I had to check to see.
They're usually the super fans.
Yeah. And he's so, why don't you go work for a Lion station? It's just so good. But anyway, I still I don't think you're not writing off the division yet, are you? I don't think by any stretch of the imagination.
Given the Vikings still play the Lions, of course not. But
especially with Detroit having now they are home, but they're playing Buffalo. Buffalo ain't Green Bay. Buffalo ain't the Titans. Buffalo ain't the Bears. Buffalo ain't the Jaguars. Buffalo's a really good football team. They can play on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. It should be, you know me, I never say it's going to be a great game. We don't know if it will. It has all the makings of it. I think Detroit certainly could lose that game. If they do, and the Vikings run the table up until that final game of the season, they've got a chance to win the NFC North.
The next two games, Atlanta, and then you're going to have Chicago on Monday night. Those are ones where the Vikings will be favored.
Yep.
And they're at home. You'd like to think they could. The last three are a little dicey, right? At Seattle, and they're going to be playing for something. It's always a tough place historically to play at. Green Bay at home. I mean, Green Bay just gave Detroit all they wanted last night in Detroit, and then, of course, at Detroit the last game. So the final three games, you need to take care of the business of the first two here, but
sure,
if you want to win the division, that's going to be a little tough stretch there.
Detroit.
You will have earned it if you get through that.
Yeah, Detroit has Buffalo, the Bears, San Fran, and the Vikings. Bears at Soldier Field, which I don't know if that makes that much of a difference, but I think it does. And the Lions.
I think it makes a difference.
And the Lions just barely squeaked by the Bears. San Francisco.
They might be done by then.
Yeah, San Fran, the Bears and San Fran. But certainly San Fran. But it's the Buffalo game, I think, is the one that looms. For Detroit, what's nice is they got a mini bye right now. They play back-to-back Thursday, so now they've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the whole week to go, so that should be beneficial to them, and they need it. They started 3 guys last night that they had signed on Monday or Tuesday, and they still found a way to win. Let's talk a little bit about that game, and want to see what you have to think. 4-5 is pretty good for Dan Campbell. I want to get Tennessee's thoughts on last night's game. And then don't forget, we got 534 top of the hour. I think Tennessee's put together a few questions for us. And then we've got program pastor with Meat Sauce, Amy Hockert, and Phil and Fuller. All of that and more. Common Man program here on The Fan. Mannheim Steamroller.
Find our street team outside of U.S. Bank Stadium this Sunday before the Vikings take on Kirk Cousins and the Falcons, and ask us how you can enter to win great prizes from our friends at Shields, including Vikings versus Packers tickets, $100 gift card to Shields. Get the full details now at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Tennessee, I think we've had a long enough relationship that you got me figured out. I'm not a Rubik's Cube. I'm basically, you can read me like a book, and I'm a comic book. I like to chide people, and I like false bravado more than anything. So when the kiddies, who I still am not convinced they're going to win the whole thing, when they're on a roll, and I haven't been able to do this very often, right? I mean, the history of the team. By the way, Tennessee's 3 favorite National Football League teams are now 33-4.
Yeah,
that's awful.
Wintersville.
Yeah, you're Wintersville. That's awful nice. Because, I'm a Browns fan, so, that's one of my other teams. I don't have it as nice as you do. But anyway, one of my close personal friends, a dear friend of mine, Badger.
And my hockey team is tops in the NHL, too. Everything's going great for the teams I cheer for.
Badger Bob is one of my a dear friend of mine, a long time. He's probably the first listener that became a close personal friend of mine. I have literally hundreds? Right, probably not hundreds, but I have several dozen listeners that have become friends of mine. Good friends. They're in my contact list. I could show it to you there. They're good people, and we get along really well. We share a lot of the same opinions. We laugh, we cry, and I think that's kind of unique in this business too, because I think a lot of radio people just distance themselves. They sort of they distance themselves. They try to keep a low profile and try to stay away, which I'm really the opposite. But he took me to Lambeau Field for the first time ever back in 1990. I think it was 94, 95. I went to Lambeau Field. That's when the superstar Mike Morris still worked for the club, and so I went to Lambeau Field. But so at the conclusion of last night's game, I texted Badger Bob. This is at 10:30 last night, and I said, "Kiddies have the best coaching staff in the NFL, and I believe they do." I believe from the top down, from the head coach to the two coordinators, that defensive coordinator. I know B-Flow's good. What this guy's able to accomplish with nothing but backup, second string, third string guys off the street, it's nothing short of remarkable. Then Badger Bob texted back, and the best team in 2024. I want another shot this year. So then, of course, you know me. I texted back, you don't want anything to do with the Kitties. Stay in your lane. Hope they get up. Hope the Kitties get upset by Washington, Tampa Bay, or Atlanta. Stay in your lane. If you're Green Bay, you don't want any.
I always love that one.
What part of the Lions do you want again after going 0-2 against them this year? You don't want any part of the Kitties. Let's start with the game going backwards, Tennessee.
Yes.
Were you stunned when they're in field goal range, 45 seconds, 50 seconds, whatever it is, and it's fourth and about a yard? Was it a long yard? It seemed like a long yard.
I don't think it was a long yard.
Yeah.
I thought it was about a yard, yeah. It wasn't a short yard.
No.
It wasn't like a foot.
No. Were you stunned, surprised, or with Dan Campbell's
I don't think you can ever be stunned with Dan Campbell, but that is a decision that he might be the only National Football League coach that makes.
You are
right.
correct.
I don't know if the other 31 coaches make that decision, even if the analytics tell you to do it. I don't know what the analytics tell you because I don't know if we've come across that situation before.
They were in field goal range, or on the 21, I believe, at the time. So it's very makeable, and the kid's a good kicker. But Campbell, his explanation was, I didn't want to give him the ball back. I wanted to finish the game.
Yeah.
I think most teams want to finish the game with the ball in their hands, obviously, and that's what he did. I mean, Bates kicks the field goal. I mean, does Green Bay drive down the field and tie it up or even win it? And we've seen it. Stranger things have happened. I saw Pat Mahomes take 13 seconds. Wasn't it 13 against the Bills, or was it the other way? Or was it the Bills against Kansas City?
It might have been
that
like
playoff game?
13 or 11 or something like that.
It was like 13 seconds. So it can happen. It almost backfired when it's a run play. In Goff, his foot is stepped on by one of his offensive linemen steps on his feet. He's falling down, and he's able to hand the ball to Demo, who we also know as Knuckles, and Knuckles is able to get the first down. Someone sent me a text message that said, congrats on the Lions win, and I appreciate that. I've been getting a lot of congratulatory notes. I'm glad they won, but the question I have is when they went for it on 4th and 1 and Goff took the handoff, turned around and tripped, and his knee was down before he handed the ball off, why was he not considered down? Because it's not college football. He was not touched by a Packer player.
Yes.
Had he been touched by a Packer player, he would have been down. But you can fall. That's why you'll see wide receivers in the league. They'll catch a ball, they'll fall down to the ground, and if nobody touches them, they get back up and run again. So that's the difference. He was not touched by a Packer player. It was a gutsy call. If you don't get it, now you've got 45 seconds left, and now a defense. Somebody else that I text and talk with more people know, he says, is Campbell's go-for-it mentality an indication that he doesn't believe in his defense's ability to get a stop when needed? Could be future trouble in the locker room. I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, I guess if you are on the defense, you could have the opinion. You could say, boy, coach doesn't trust us to stop this team. But you saw
in that particular game.
Right. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
You saw the way Green Bay was moving the ball. I mean, they flipped the script to start the second half right away. They drive down, score a touchdown. They hit the long pass to was it Watson?
Christian Watson, yeah.
He catches the long pass. They get it in.
Great pass.
Goff throws a pick, and Green Bay capitalized. Suddenly, from a 17-7 lead, it's now 21-17 Green Bay. And that's when I turned the TV off on Insta. Also, you have to look at the circumstance. Their defense is so ravaged with injuries. I'm telling you, they played 3 guys last night that they just signed off the practice squad, or off other teams' practice squads, or in one case, just a guy off the couch, the Adams guy. They signed him off the couch. It's like you got guys that don't even know the playbook. They don't even know the defensive assignments. You're just telling guys to go out there and play football. Just go out and play. Tackle, just run around and be crazy out there. And so you can see why a coach would say, well, let's, and that the Green Bay offense is pretty good. So I can, was it risky? Yeah. As a Lions fan, I expect it and I love it. I love it.
It's a mentality.
It is a mentality. I even said, they went for it earlier. They went out for it 4 to 5 times. So I'm texting and talking with again, another person that was a listener and has become a friend. I said, it's what we do. I'm okay with it. Then he goes, live by the dog, die by the dog. Mike Tice. And then he puts in parentheses another meathead. And I go, and then at 10:23, the critical 4th down, when they're in field goal range, I texted, we're going for it. It's what we do. He said, he's kicking. He sent that back right away. Moments later, they went for it, and I just texted back, it's what we do, because that is what and I'm all for it. Now, again, I know there was the one that backfired, the one that they didn't make. They're on their own 31.
Championship, yeah.
Yeah. Or last night.
Oh, yeah, even last night.
Last night.
Yes.
They're on their own 31, and they had a long yard, maybe even 2. It seemed like maybe that was the one I was thinking of. It seemed like an awful long.
And that one they pitched it out to Jahmyr Gibbs out to the right,
well,
right?
Because Green Bay had remembered, I think at least once and maybe twice on those 4th downs, Goff had went straight ahead. So they packed the center and said, we're not letting Goff quarterback sneak it.
Yep.
So I think that's what the Lions had planned to do. I believe. I don't know. I didn't see the all 22 wide.
They changed the call.
It seemed like they changed the call and made the pitch, and then they scored a touchdown right away.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, as a fan, I bit my lip. I'm like, do we have to go for it every single time? But then you go, well, if we're more judicious, then there's going to be times when we don't, when we probably should have. There were 4 to 5 without those going for it. That my guess is that game has a different outcome.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Well, and what also goes into this too is we talk about Dan Campbell being able to gamble and being aggressive in those situations. It also helps when he has the personnel he does.
Well, that's
right. Like not every offense in the league can be aggressive in those situations, but when you've got that offensive line and you need a yard to go. And a quarterback who can make good decisions. You got 2 good running backs. You've got capable receivers. Like they've got a top 5 offense in the league, so it makes it a little bit easier to be aggressive and be confident in those spots.
Exactly. Someone said, hot take, but maybe Campbell was more worried about his kicker missing with time left and giving Green Bay possession in a tie game. That's
I don't think so.
That's not what it was.
Kicker's been pretty good, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. The kicker's been brilliant this year. Matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, he kicked a 52-yarder and a 58-yarder to win late in the game. Yeah. And that come from behind victory.
And they weren't kicking this one from 50+.
No.
This would have been like 38, 39 yards, right?
I think he did.
Every NFL kicker's hitting
He knows his defense is beat up. They've given up a lot of points.
Yes.
And he just didn't want to give it to Love. We just talked about that. What happens is, how many times have you seen teams... The Vikings have done it a couple of times this year. They've come from behind when teams, even the Cardinals game, right? Sort of similar, not quite the same. Cardinals decided to kick a field goal, right? Instead of put the hammer down and win the game.
If Dan Campbell's the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, Vikings probably don't win that game.
That's right, unless they don't convert the play. Yeah. But even if they don't, let's say they throw incomplete. Well, now the Vikings are starting at the 4-yard line.
Yes.
It's way different than saying, let's kick the field goal and give them the ball back. So really, you're going to do that? And that's what they did, and it cost them the game. So, you do see around the league, and I'm not suggesting this because people are following the lead of Campbell. Over the last 2 years, I've seen more coaches go for it in their own, not at the 31, but they'll go for it from their own 40, 42.
Sure. Yeah.
They'll do it all the time, especially early in a game when you figure, okay, if it doesn't work, I trust my defense a little bit here. And if they score off of it, well, we have time, like with the Lions last night. They gave up a tutty right after that, after on their own 31 when they didn't get it. And then Green Bay scored, took the lead back, and then Detroit ended up winning the football game. There was one other note from last night's game. I think I saw, is it the first time in the history of the National Football League that 6 players had 5 catches or more in a single game? That's what the Lions did last night.
Really?
It was either 5 had, it was 6 had 5 or more catches, or maybe it was 5 players had 6 or more. One of the two. But it's a national football. It's never been done in the history of the national. To your point about all the weapons that they have, they got plenty of them. I mean, they're not. You saw how many times they threw screen pass last night to Gibbs or Demo. Mm-hmm. They throw it all the time to the running backs. And this goes back to, and I'm not going to go down the route of signing 5 free agent running backs, but it does show when you have at least two really good running backs. Man, that gives that team so many different options. They've got Sonic, who's quick and make moves. You have Montgomery, you can get your tough yards, Demo, Knuckles. And then one guy's not, he's not having to carry the ball 20, 25 times a game. They split it up. It usually ends up, I think, fairly even between carries and catches between the two players. And I think and then when you have change of pace backs like that, I think more teams should. It's hard. It's hard to find 2 guys. You pay 2 running backs, but it sure works for them.
I'll tell you, too, the Tim Patrick acquisition was a very sneaky, under-the-radar good acquisition.
Correct.
Right? When he was in Denver, there were many times, he doesn't get the fanfare that a lot of wide receivers do in the league, and he hasn't done it consistently over a long time. But he had moments in Denver where he was like their best wide receiver or top 2 wide receiver. And has had some bad injuries. That's why he was available. Mm-hmm. And that's why they got him off the street. But he's a very capable wide receiver when healthy. Plus, he also adds an element that I don't know if they have in their receiving corps, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown's on the smaller side.
Yep.
Jamison Williams he's a burner. He's a speed guy. So now you get a wide receiver that gets you a little bit of size and can help you in the red zone. Like, that was, assuming he stays healthy, and that's a big assumption, that was a sneaky good acquisition by them.
Yeah.
They got him off the street for nothing.
I tend to agree. And, defensively, they had some guys, again, former Pro Bowlers, guys that were some of the best at their positions when they were in their prime are now on the club right now. They should get players, but now that they know they're in, I mean, I don't think they're going to go into coast mode by any stretch of the imagination because you want home field advantage. You're not going to go, hey, it doesn't even matter if we lose the next 2 or 3 games because we're already in the playoffs, but they have clinched. And I'm not convinced they've won the division. I'm not. With the way the Vikings are playing right now, the Vikings are winning football games. I mean, obviously, Detroit's in the driver's seat. That's obvious. They got a one game lead. And it looks to me that their schedule, I would think their schedule's not as difficult to remain. The Buffalo's a tough game.
Yes.
Between the Vikings and the Lions, I think Detroit is the toughest game left on the schedule, Buffalo. But after that, Chicago, San Francisco, I mean, I know they could lose. They should have lost to the Bears. The Bears should have won the game. But my guess is I think the Lions absolutely could lose to Buffalo and probably will. Or do you think now? I don't know. Why do I keep...
What's at home, right?
Yeah, it's at Detroit. I don't know.
I think Detroit is just as good as Buffalo, if not better. I know Buffalo's been a hot team, and they haven't lost in a long time, and they're the only team to knock off the Chiefs in the AFC, but Detroit can beat anybody. At home, they can beat anybody.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I still think it's going to
probably be like a slight point favorite in that game, point or 2 favorite.
So let me ask you a question. Let's say both teams run the table, as we say, until week 18.
Yeah.
Vikings trail by a game. If the Vikings were to win that game, they'd be tied on head-to-head. Then it would go for, is it then division record? Is that next?
I believe that would be accurate. I would think we'd be tied.
Right now the lines are 4-0 in the division.
Yeah. The Vikings have lost 1.
So now...
Which was to Detroit, so that would be tied.
So now they would be tied. They'd both be 5-1. What's the third tiebreak?
I thought it was just maybe like common opponents, which would be your division schedule, and I don't know who else.
Right. Wow.
I'll find it.
Yeah.
So if it's just between 2 clubs, tiebreaker number 1, head-to-head, they'd be tied. 1 loss tied percentage in games played within the division. If we win out, that would be tied.
Okay.
1 loss tied percentage in common games. Have they had any common games? Well, I suppose against the AFC South.
AFC South, that's exactly right.
Which we've beaten all those teams. Does Detroit beat them all? Who's Detroit's only loss? Tampa Bay, so yes.
Yeah. And Vikings played San Francisco, right?
Yes.
And Detroit is about to play San Francisco.
Yes.
They must have another game. Did they both play the Rams? Detroit beat them. Did the Vikings play the Rams? No.
Yeah, the Vikings lost at Los Angeles.
They lost to the Rams. And
because we've all played the NFC West as well. Yes.
And Detroit beat the Rams, obviously. And that means Detroit also beat the Cardinals, so did the Vikings. And the Seattle game, Detroit lost. No, they lost the Tampa Bay game.
They only lost Tampa Bay.
So they beat Seattle.
So they would have the common games edge. So Vikings need them to lose before the last week. We need them to lose to Buffalo.
Having lived in Minnesota, I understand weather patterns. There'll be a Calcutta Clipper in Buffalo. Swings in, swings out. Lakefront influence and out. Of course, they're not playing in Buffalo, so they're playing in Detroit. So should be interesting. I bet a couple people think that the text on the Bradshaw and Brighton KFAN text line that thinks that don't overlook this Atlanta club and Kirk Cousins. I mean, I know you don't.
I am a little worried about the overlooking of Atlanta. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's a quality team. I do believe in whether Kirk has any reason for revenge or not, there's going to be revenge there because he's going to have the fans all over him. And let's face it, like as long as Kirk is liked in the Atlanta locker room, they're playing for him in this game, right? They're going to get up for him. They're going to try to help him out. I do think you're going to get Atlanta's best. So, yeah, I'm not certain it's any gimme in any way, shape, or form.
Lions' game plan was brilliant last night. They are always capable of being a ball control team, but with such a beat-up defense, they are focusing even more on ball control than usual in going for all those fourth downs, especially the last one. The last one was part of it. I'm a huge Vikings fan, and I love Dan Campbell. So he's a Vikings fan that's looking at it clearly. I think they probably did go with that approach because of the defense beat up. 3 guys that hadn't played in the system. You don't know what to expect. And, a screen pass is about as good as a running play, right? It's almost the same thing, right? You're just, instead of handing it off to a guy, you're just flipping it to him 2 or 3 yards down the field. So they threw a lot of screen passes. They ran a lot. They went for it on fourth down. They didn't want to give the ball to Green Bay, and it worked to perfection in the first half for the most part. But it's be interesting. The best part of the season so far, Green Bay's got to be. Well, they might not be mathematically eliminated from winning the NFC North, but they're not going to win it, right? They're just not.
Have they played Detroit twice? They've played Detroit twice, and they lost both.
Yeah, Detroit beat them both. So they are done.
They're 3 games back, and they don't have the tiebreaker.
Yeah. So, in other words, Tennessee, it's probably. Oh, I don't have Delicious anymore.
What?
You know what I think I did? I drugged an extra email sounder over the Delicious one. I knew I'd done that, and I couldn't remember what it was. So I have 2 email sounders, and I need a Delicious. Is there any way?
What if we've lost it forever?
No, don't say that. It must be somewhere.
I'm sure we'll find it.
Yeah, we need to find it. So there you go. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back. 534 from Tennessee. Don't forget, I think Meat Sauce is already in the house. Meat Sauce and Common Man will team up for program password against Amy Hockert and Phil and Fuller. Delicious. There you go. Can you put it on and or? Either one works for me. There
I put it on there for you.
Thank you.
Guess what? The Vikings now have a 2-game lead over the Green Bay Packers.
We'll break. We'll come back with 534 next.
Yeah, we got ourselves a late night predicament tonight.